How's it going, everyone? In this video I want to show you how NASA has done irreversible damage and has directly influenced public opinion about the upcoming event. They claim in a simple block, without showing any evidence, that the current shifting of the poles and the geomagnetic excursion don't cause climate change. But internally, they know that geomagnetic excursions are closely tied to the abrupt climate change events they also anticipate. In this video, I will show you evidence that they know what's coming and that they are lying to you. This is a video of the Earth's magnetic field, and if this field diminishes, then we are going to be bombarded by cosmic radiation, which directly causes climate change. So here's their blog post from 2001. It's interesting that it's published by Alan Buis, which works for Jet Propulsion Laboratory at NASA, and this is very important and you will see why later. So this is their blog post, why variations in Earth's magnetic field aren't causing today's climate change. They are going through several hypotheses, and the one we are interested in are geomagnetic excursions, because they are more rapid excursions and more frequent than magnetic pole reversals, and because they occur more rapidly, they are causing these climate change chain events, which are causing mass extinctions. And in their article, they are saying that during the last major excursion, called the Lachamp event, radiocarbon evidence showed that about 41,500 years ago, the magnetic field weakened significantly and the poles reversed, only to flip back again about 500 years later. While there is some evidence of regional climate changes during the Lachamp event timeframe, ice cores from Antarctica and Greenland don't show any major changes. Moreover, when viewed within the context of climate variability during the last ice age, any changes in climate observed at Earth's surface were subtle. And in my opinion, this is the lie which they present without any evidence. Now, in my opinion, they haven't found any evidence in the ice cores from Antarctica and Greenland because they didn't even bother to look for evidence. Because if we go to another study also published in 2001 from people who actually went to the field and searched from evidence and found out that 42,000 years ago, during the Lachamp climate change event, there was a mass extinction event in which the Neanderthals perished. And they found evidence in ancient trees on New Zealand, known as the kauri trees, that there was increased cosmic radiation. The kauri trees are like the Rosetta Stone, helping us tie together records of environmental change in caves, ice cores, and pit bogs around the world, says Professor Alan Cooper, who co-led this research project. Using the newly created timescale, we were able to show that tropical Pacific rain belts and Southern Ocean westerly winds abruptly shifted at the same time, bringing arid conditions to places like Australia at the same time as a range of megafauna, including giant kangaroos and giant wombats, went extinct. Further north, the vast Laurentide ice sheet rapidly grew across the eastern US and Canada, while in Europe, Neanderthals spiraled into extinction. So they are directly tying the Lachamp geomagnetic excursion to this abrupt climate change event. So I told you to remember that this article in 2021 was published by Jet Propulsion Laboratory at NASA. Now let's see what they are publishing internally. And of course, we are going back to the leaked Pentagon report from 2004 about the abrupt climate change event. As I've told you, that report was made by the same division, Jet Propulsion Lab at NASA, the same division that created this blog post. But here, when they made this report for Pentagon, They go to the core of the problem and the climate change, and they compare the current climate change with three events, all of which are heavily intertwined with the Earth's magnetic field. Both the Younger Dryas 12,000 years ago and the 8.2 kilo year event correspond with geomagnetic excursion. The geomagnetic excursion, which occurred at the same time as the Younger Dryas, it's called the Gothenburg geomagnetic excursion. And this one at the 8.2 kilo year event, it's still unnamed geomagnetic excursion with evidence coming from China. The third example is the Little Ice Age, which occurred around 1300 AD, which corresponds to a grand solar minimum and increased cosmic radiation. Again, all of these examples correspond with the Earth's magnetic field. So it's interesting that while internally the Jet Propulsion Lab at NASA is telling us one thing, but for the mainstream they are playing down the role of the magnetic field in the today's climate change. It's also interesting that the founder of Jet Propulsion Laboratory at NASA was Jack Parsons, one of the fathers of modern rocketry, and he is also known as one of the most famous occultists at that time, with close ties with Aleister Crowley and the founder of Scientology, L. Ron Hubbard. They were both part of the famous Babylon workings when Jack Parsons tried to invoke the ancient goddess of Babylon. But that's for another video. I want to show you that everything is tied to the UAP phenomenon and the geophysical event. Here's another study from NASA from the 1970s, which also shows that they are aware of the connection between geomagnetic excursions and climate change. And this study was published by Michael R. Rampino for NASA. You can still find this study on their website. You just need to know how to exactly search for the study, because they will not show you the results easily. It says that such double coincidences of magnetic excursions and sudden cooling and glacial advance at times of major ice volume changes have occurred at about 13,500 years ago. This is the Younger Dryas, 30,000 years ago, 110,000 years ago, etc. Bear in mind, this is an older study. Now we are aware of more such events and more geomagnetic excursions. Again, I want to show you that the elite is aware of this reality. And here's Elon Musk talking about the ice ages and the geomagnetic excursions in a podcast.
Climate also changes pretty radically over the course of, like, say, 10,000 years. It can shift from being extremely hot to extremely cold. You can really go down a deep rabbit hole if you read about ice ages.
So interesting.
That how much Earth's climate has changed, and even where the magnetically where the poles are has shifted over time. Climate also changes.
So can we compare today with what happened 3,000 years ago, 6,000 years ago, 8 to 9,000 years ago, and 12,000 years ago? Yes. Today the magnetic pole shift has reached speeds between 35 to 55 km per year, equivalent to the previous geomagnetic excursions, such as the Lasham geomagnetic excursion. We are witnessing climate change and the potential collapse of the ocean currents, just like in the past events. And that's what the Pentagon report conducted by JPL NASA is telling you in 2003, which was leaked in 2004. That's why this report is so important. And we can see that the Earth's magnetic field is 30% weaker than it was during the Little Ice Age in the 1300s, when half of the populations died from wars, disease like the Black Plague, and natural catastrophes such as volcanic activity. Now again, the next grand solar minima is expected between 2030 and 2050. So it's likely to be at least 30% worse than the Little Ice Age period. And that, my friends, is why they're building doomsday bunkers. So there are studies that showing that during the increased cosmic radiation, there are more volcanic activities. Also, a study that during grand solar minima and increased cosmic radiation, there are more pandemics, and this study finds the connection of that. All of the major pandemics in the past coincide with grand solar minima and increased solar radiation. Here's the study that is saying that the next expected grand solar minima it's between 2030 and 2040. This is the most fascinating video that I have ever heard. It's a leak by Bill Ryan saying exactly what will happen in the near future. This is from 2010. Now listen to this.
They said China will catch a cold. And after that, then what effectively will be a kind of plague will actually spread right across the world to the West as well. And you've got this totalitarian military lockdown in all the governments in the Western worlds because everyone's going to be in panic about all of this. And then, he said, then the real war starts. Something that would be justifiably called the Third World War with a much more major nuclear exchange. They believe that there is going to be what he called a geophysical event. A major geophysical event. There have been trillions of dollars that have been spent on deep underground bases for some reason, which we don't know why it is. That there are repeated cyclical geophysical events about every 11,500 years. Information about what really happened to Atlantis was very probably in the Great Library of Alexandria that burnt down a couple of thousand years ago. There are persistent rumors that much of that information has been retrieved and it's in the Vatican Library. This is information which is not in the public domain.
So you can see that all the chaos today with the pandemic and the upcoming wars is used by the elite to better prepare for this upcoming abrupt climate change, or as Bill Ryan calls it, the major geophysical event. It's all connected to the geomagnetic excursions and to the cyclical event. Right now we know that we are very close to World War III, especially with Russia and China. And the last news from 2 days ago is that Trump wants all the NATO countries to impose 50 to 100% tariffs on China. So what do you think is going to happen? In my opinion, we are right on track for the Third World War before the geophysical event, but that's only my opinion. I have more to say about this, and I don't know how this video is going to be received by the algorithm, and I hope it will not be demonetized because I'm just expressing my opinion. If you think that climate change is caused by humans, that's okay. I'm expressing my opinion. If you want to support my channel, the best way is to subscribe on my Patreon or on my X account, because you are the only way for my research to continue, and I will continue making these videos. Thank you for watching and see you in the next one.